The second leg of this road trip for the Phillies comes to a close here in humid Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Phils are looking for a little offense. They've made a roster move they hope could change their luck offensively. It is Game 3 at PNC Park. Folks coming over the Clemente Bridge, getting set for today's ball game. That roster move was made after yesterday's ball game. Darren Rupp was optioned down to Lehigh Valley. He's going to play every day. He's not sure if he's playing first base or the outfield, but he is going to play every day. Meanwhile, Dominic Brown, well, he was playing every day for the Iron Pigs, and now is the Phillies' starting right fielder for this afternoon's ball game. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, along with Ben Davis, who was nice enough to tie my tie today. We get set for Dominic Brown to make his return to the Phillies, and we're expecting him to probably be out there every day in right field.
I think he will be out there every day, and we didn't know when this was going to come. Did he really warrant a promotion back to the big leagues? It wasn't very swinging the bat very good down in the Lehigh Valley. He has picked it up as of late. The power numbers returned a little bit, and he's back in the big leagues, and we'll see what happens. And I think he's got to do it this time. Otherwise, this might be his last chance.
Defensively down at Lehigh Valley, 6 outfield assists, so he's been crisp in the outfield. You see his numbers down below, and his numbers last year, 10 home runs and a little more than 60 runs batted in. All right, so he'll face A.J. Burnett today, who was with the Phils for 1 year a season ago, lost 18 games, but has pitched really well for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
He's been downright dirty for the Pittsburgh Pirates. 6-2 this year. Could be better than that. He could be undefeated. In his 2 losses, he has an ERA of 1.45. That is hard to do. So he and Cole Hamels have a lot in common as they take the mound today, and the fact that they're not getting a whole lot of run support. For me, it's his fastball command. Yes, he still has a good breaking ball, a decent changeup, but the fastball command has really come back for him this year. Righties and lefties, he's able to move it in and out.
Well, we saw last year the curveball was his dominant pitch. Now, that may have been because of the hernia that he sustained and pitched through the entire year, but he is healthy. How much is that going to help him?
Well, he's very healthy, and you know, he tells us that this is his last year. That's yet to be determined. I don't know what's going to happen, but if it is, I think he's looking at it, he's just very relaxed. He knows this is his last go-around. If it is his last go-around, he's just really going out there and enjoying every start.
All right, so it is the finale of this 3-game series. A.J. Burnett will get the baseball for the Pirates. Cole Hamels will be making his 14th start of the season. Last time out, Cole wasn't as sharp. He's looking to get back into the rhythm he was in for most of the month of May. Well, defensively yesterday, Chase Utley made some really good plays. Look at this over-the-shoulder grab. How about this sliding grab on a ground ball, and then this hurdle and a little bit of a push. We'll get to the lineups at first pitch when we return. Phillies baseball is brought to series. Some of the folks taking in a little cruise along the Allegheny River. There's Cole Hamels heading back into the dugout after warming up out in the bullpen. The bullpens are out in left center field. A.J. Burnett just arrived in the dugout as well. Michael Franco is not totally sure that he has those seeds in. Oh, now he knows. It probably took him a little while to get from top to bottom in that head of hair. He has been red hot. An 11-game hitting streak, hitting over 400 during that stretch. See, Ben, that's the disadvantage that Michael and yourself have. I mean, you have all those seeds in your hair. Sometimes you won't even know. Like for me, I can tell as soon as I get some seeds in my hair.
Jimmy Hoffa might be in that head of hair.
Well, there's Dominic Brown, who's made his return to the Phillies. Will be in right field starting today and batting sixth. And Phillies hope that he can add a little juice to this offensive lineup that is 1 for 22 with runners in scoring position during the first 2 games of this series. Darren Ruff headed out to Lehigh Valley earlier today. And we're just now waiting for A.J. Burnett to take the field and get this ball game rolling. There are some showers in the area. In fact, they had the tarp on the field for a little bit of this morning. And they are anticipating that we will be able to get this game in, but that there are some heavy rains that are scheduled to come a little later on this afternoon here in the Pittsburgh area. So it's a hot day. Got to stay hydrated as best you can out in the stands. Phillies come into this ball game losers of 5 straight on this road trip and 9 straight on the road overall, as they try to right their ship as best they can before they head to Baltimore for a couple games. In fact, a 4-game home and home with the Baltimore Orioles. Meanwhile, for the Pirates, well, it's fortunate that they've been able to win these last 2 ball games because the Cardinals keep on winning. Pirates come into today's ball game 6.5 games back in the National League Central at 34-27 and a half game ahead of the Chicago Cubs. Look at the Cardinals. They're 20 games over 500 at 41-21. 20 games over 500.
I think that's the biggest story in baseball. I know there's been some teams that have surprised people. The Braves are up there in my mind as well, surprising people. The Cardinals, to lose Wainwright and still be 20 games over 500, it's amazing to me.
Well, there's the National League East, where the Mets have taken over first place, just 3 games over 500, a half game ahead of the Nationals at 32-30. The Braves at 30-32 are 2.5 games back. You know, the Phillies 22-41, 11 games off the pace. It's a shame because this division is such a toss-up right now. I mean, nobody is running away with it. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's ball game for the Phils. It's brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Revere's in center field leading it off, then Jeff Francoeur and Chase Utley. Ryan Howard is the cleanup batter. He'll be at first base. Michael Franco, 11-game hitting streak, is at third. Dominic Brown makes his Phillies debut here in 2015. He'll bat sixth in the bottom third of Galvis Ruiz and Cole Hamels. And they'll face Pirates right-hander A.J. Burnett, who faced the Phillies back in Philadelphia during that 4-game series. Pitched very well. This will be his 13th outing. Look at that ERA, 2.11. He's averaging just under a strikeout per innings pitched and only 3 home runs allowed. This is a guy who lost 18 games last year as a member of the Phillies pitching staff.
Well, he's using that sinker and he's using it effectively. He still has a very good breaking ball on the changeup. As we take a look at the scout report, he will touch 92, but his fastball command has really been good. Not necessarily a great record against the Phillies as you look 7-9 with a 4.78, but the Phillies, especially the lefties, cannot, and I repeat, cannot give up on that front door sinker.
Well, that front door sinker has been one of the mainstays for A.J. Burnett during his career. Time now for our Nissan keys to today's ball game.
Keys for me, the Phillies down for Brown. They need him to come up and do some damage. And like I said, you know, I don't know if this is his last chance, but it might be for him if he doesn't do it. And the ace ends it. Cole Hamels needs to end this losing streak and end this road losing streak.
Well, here we go. Ben Revere is ready to lead things off for the Phillies. Revere is 5 for 10 against A.J. Burnett and 8 for 29 so far this year against Pittsburgh. He had a pretty good day yesterday for the Phils as the leadoff hitter. And the first pitch of the day is in there for a strike, so we're underway. A little late, but still underway. No balls and 1 strike. See the overall numbers for Ben Revere: 275. No homers, 16 RBIs. Ground ball toward the middle. Harrison playing second has it, flips across his body in time. Boy, was he playing a shallow second base.
Yeah, I don't know why he was shaded in the hole so much. I mean, Ben Revere hits the ball the left side of the infield more than a lot of folks, and it's a great play here. I mean, you see there, I mean, he is well over towards that hole, but gets to this ball with ease and makes a very, very strong throw despite his momentum going away from first base.
So he's playing second base today, and Gong's playing over third, so they've moved around their infielders for this afternoon's finale. Here's Jeff Francoeur making the start in left field, the first one of the year for him. Takes inside, 1 ball, no strikes. As far as the way the outfield alignment's going to look, well, it'd be hard to sit Ben Revere. I think he's going to play over Odubel Herrera, and they're still going to play Cody Ashe in left. And their thought is that Brown will play every day in right field, so that means Francoeur, his role really hasn't changed, but Odubel Herrera's role is probably going to change a little bit with this ball club, at least for the time being.
I think Herrera is the one that's most affected by this move.
1 ball, 1 strike to Francoeur. Outside, 2 balls and 1 strike. Over the screen, behind home plate, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes to Francoeur, who is 2 for 4 in this series. Yeah, it's a hot one today. The pitchers are going to be wiping their brow throughout the afternoon, trying to keep that hand dry. Two pitches ripped into left field, a base hit. And Francoeur is thinking 2 out of the box. And he'll get there without a throw by Starling Marte. So a leadoff double. That's 9 doubles this year for Jeff Francoeur. His dad Dave to the left there. Pretty excited about seeing his son get a chance to play here.
That's pretty darn cool. Francoeur gets a fastball, just comes back right over the middle of the plate. And you know, Tom, you talked about the defensive alignment. I mean, this ball doesn't even get to the fence. You see Mr. Francoeur very happy.
What a good guy.
But that ball doesn't even get to the fence. I mean, these guys really play. They really pinch the gaps here in the outfield. The ball didn't even reach the fence. The fence is only 325 down the left field line. He still made it in the second with ease.
Well, he's in scoring position. Here's Utley, and Utley takes inside 1-0. Chases 1 for his last 25. He ended his 0 for streak yesterday with a base hit. He had been 0 for 24 before that base hit. His average at 187. He made some unbelievable plays yesterday defensively. Ground ball right side. So Francoeur will move over to third. And Utley is retired. 4-3 on the putout. So 2 away. Runner over third. Today's Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Colin Flory. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game. And Colin's going to win 600 smackaroos.
Good luck, Colin.
Gosh, we hope we give out some cash today.
Smackaroos.
I think I may have said that when I was a kid at some point. Here's Ryan Howard. Howard 236, 11 home runs, 28 runs batted in. Up high, 1 ball, no strikes. Breaking ball, that's in there, 1-1. That's a good pitch right there. A.J. Burnett, when he's not on his game, a lot of times it's that curveball or slider that is out of the strike zone all the time. I always go back to Game 2 of the World Series in '09 and how good he was, and it was because of his breaking pitch. He was so good. Phillies faced him later on in the series, and he was not so good. That ball is crushed deep to right center field. McCutchen going back toward the fence. He jumps, and he makes the catch right at the top of the ketchup bottle. What a play defensively by Andrew McCutchen. That's got to be the 4th play in this series that either McCutchen or Polanco has made in the outfield that's robbed the Phils of an extra base hit. He got to the spot, knew exactly where he was, and reeled it in to end the top of the 1st. involved as a right fielder. Well, he doesn't really have to say too much about Andrew McCutchen. That was just a fantastic play to finish up the top of the first. Let's take a look at Hurdle's starting lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Harrison, Marte, and McCutchen, followed by Gong, Rodriguez, and Cervelli. In the bottom third of Corey Hart, Jordy Mercer, and A.J. Burnett. And they will face left-hander Cole Hamels. Hamels 5-5 this year, 3.19 earned run average. Last time out, he allowed 5 earned runs. So that's why his ERA is jumped to over 3. So he's trying to get back down in the zone here this afternoon. Harrison swings at the first pitch and fouls it away.
And that was against the Reds, who he had never lost to. Cincinnati Reds.
Swing and a miss, and it's 0-2 to Harrison.
As we take a look at the scouting report for Cole Hamels, 92. We'll sit at 92. I think he might get up to 94, 95. Change, cutter, and a curve. Curveball has come a long way, and he is very good against the Pirates with a 2.73 career ERA.
Yeah, his fastball against Cincinnati was at 94 and even 95. Some folks thought the gun in Cincinnati was a little hot. One thing that has been really hot for him is his changeup, and he gets Harrison there. And there's one gone here in the bottom of the first.
So this is change up down in the zone, and again, if you're throwing 94, 95, that ball comes out of his hand at the same arm angle, same release point. It's just 10 miles an hour slower.
Marte takes inside, 1 ball and no strikes. Marte is 6 for 11 in this series with 2 runs batted in. Outside, 2-0.
You know, the best thing about that strikeout was that he did it on 4 pitches. Cole can run some late counts. He eventually will get the strikeout, but the pitch count gets up.
One of the remarkable things that stands out during his career, the number of foul balls that guys hit against him. I think he's been better at it this year. I don't know how you can improve on it. It's just being able to blow the hitter away in some way, shape, or form. That ball's hit well deep down the right field line. It is foul. Just foul. Well, it's only 320 down there, and you just got to get it over Clemente's wall, which is 21 feet high. It is a short porch, and Marte nearly fed that porch.
Well, it had the distance.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Fouled again.
Do you like the uniform, Tom?
I do. It's from the 1970s for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was one of 4 that they wore back in the 70s. They were the first team to come up with the double knit uniform. They were a little tighter back then, the uniforms.
Yes, they were. I like the ones they had on yesterday. Pure white.
I like those. Yep, I like those. Now, the ones they wore in '79, they were all over the place with those. Inside, 3-2.
The We Are Family bunch.
Oh, man. Those were colorful. Over to third. Ooh, scooped up by a sprawling Franco. Hurries the throw. It's not in time. They're going to tag Marte. And he didn't make any attempt to go to second base. I think they're going to score that a base hit.
Especially with Marte's speed. He really does get down the line. It's a shame because Franco gets to the ball. He just could not make the exchange and get the ball out of his glove. You know, he does have that arm strength and he can rely on that, but he just wasn't able to get it out of his glove. And with Marte's speed, like I said, he's going to beat that one out.
Yeah, when he was having trouble getting out of his glove, it changed his footwork too. You know, his pattern was off a little bit. McCutchen 284, 8 home runs, 39 runs batted in. And he takes a bit low. It's 1-0. center field, and Revere heading back toward the track to the wall, jumps and makes the catch. Basically saying to Andrew McCutchen, how do you like it?
Now, is that coincidental or ironic, Tom? I think Kutch thinks he gets this one. I thought Ryan Howard's ball was well out of here.
I did too.
And I didn't think that ball was going to be out. Obviously, Ryan Howard thinks he gets his as he goes into his trot. And I thought Howard's was way out.
I thought Howard's was going to be way out too.
And I didn't think that one was going to go as far as it did, the one that McCutchen hit.
Well, here's Jung Ho Kong batting cleanup today. Hitting .346 against left-handers, part of the reason why he's in the lineup this afternoon. Pirates haven't played a whole lot of left-handers this year. They've only faced 8 left-handed starters in 61 games. Now they will face a variety of left-handers coming up over the next several games. Remarkable, though. 8 left-handed.
That is something.
This is number 8. Hamels keeping an eye on Marte, who has 11 stolen bases, been caught 4 times. Let's see what the Pirates are doing against left-handers. That's all left-handed pitchers. Little slide step, and it drops in for a strike. 0-1. Young spent 9 years playing in Korea. Last year played in 117 games, hit 40 home runs. 40 home runs and 117 RBIs.
It's a heck of a year.
117 games, 117 RBIs.
Now, I know that the ERAs are a lot higher over there. The pitching's not as good, but still, that's doing some damage.
Yeah, the average, the league average earned run average is up close to 5. So it's an offensive league. Two balls, 2 strikes.
Heater in.
Thinking.
That's what I say.
Okay. Well, it was supposed to be in, but it went out over the plate. He's down on strikes. Second strikeout for Hamels. That's 1,800 now for his career. Pretty easy first inning. 19 pitches all total. And we'll go to the second. but will receive the 1960s Phillies cap compliments of Chevrolet. It's all part of a 3-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. Top of the second inning, Maikel Franco, Dominic Brown, and Freddie Galvis to lead things off. First pitch is into the knees. It's 0-1. Franco, 11-game hitting streak. He's hitting over 400 during that streak. Breaking ball, 0-2.
See Maikel flinch a little bit on that one.
What he's done his last 5 games, 9 for 19. He has the second highest batting average in the National League over the last 7 games. And he waves that slider. And Franco won't run. He's tagged out. And that is number 2,441 for A.J. Burnett, which ties him for 38th place all time with Jamie Moyer.
I would have never guessed Jamie had that many strikeouts. Nothing against Jamie, but you know, he's not really a strikeout pitcher.
Well, he's around for a while.
That he was.
Here's Dominic Brown making his return to the big leagues. Those are his numbers from AAA. 1 ball, 1 strike. Brown had hit in 8 of his last 11 games down with Lehigh Valley. And during the month of June, 7 extra base hits. One ball, 1 strike to him. And it's 1-2. Dominic was with the Phillies obviously in spring training and developed some Achilles tendonitis that put him on the shelf for a lot of spring training. Went out, rehabbed it. Fights that one off, hits it to left field. And Marte is under it. And there are 2 outs here in the second. I think a lot of folks thought that Dominic would be back with the ball club after he went through his rehab assignments for that Achilles. He wasn't hitting all that well, though. So they wanted to get him some more at-bats, and some more at-bats turned into a little more than 2 months in the minor leagues. Quite frankly, there was a traffic jam of outfielders.
There was.
Up here in the big leagues. Freddie Galvis hitting .262. He has 8 hits this year against the Pirates. 2 of those hits came yesterday, and he fouls it down the left field line. It's 0-1.
Looked very, very good yesterday. Very comfortable in the box. He hit a couple balls hard, 1 for a double. He also had that single, so that was very good to see. I'm sure it made him feel very good as well.
During the 2015 season, Turkey Hill, the official ice cream of the Phillies, will contribute $100 for each Phillies victory and 5 cents for each carton of Phillies Grand Slam ice cream, sold to support the Phillies youth baseball and softball programs. Galvis again fouls it away. Strike 3. So he slides past Jamie Moyer on the all-time strikeout list. 2,442. He gets 2 in this inning, 1 to start it, 1 to finish it. We'll head to the bottom of the second. Phillies and the Pirates, no score. Facebook.com/Philly Tough. Then watch as the Philly Tough debate escalates on Breakfast on Broad tomorrow morning from 6 until 8 on the Comcast Network.
Batting fifth for the Pirates, the right fielder, number 3, Sean Rodriguez.
Sean Rodriguez will lead things off. Rodriguez playing right field today. It's his 9th start in right field. In there for Polanco, and he takes strike 1. It's 0-1. Rodriguez so far 1 for 2 in this series. Those are his overall numbers. Out over the Phillies dugout into the seats. The ball's at 2 strikes to Rodriguez. He tried to get him to go after that changeup, and he laid off. Pirates will remain home for the next 2 days. They'll wait the arrival of the Chicago White Sox as the Phillies head to Baltimore to take on the Orioles. Pittsburgh plays 2 here against Chicago, just as the Phillies play 2 in Baltimore, and then they'll head to Chicago for 2 more. And the Phillies will play the Orioles for 2 in Philadelphia. That'll be happening all around baseball. Swing and a miss. Strikeout number 3 for Hamels. And that'll bring Francisco Cervelli to the plate. Well, Murph, we've seen 3 strikeouts today for Hamels. And it's odd because we haven't seen his curveball utilized today, but he's been utilizing an awful lot this year.
Yeah, he really has, Tom. Now, out of his 4 pitches, it's the pitch that he uses the least. He throws it about 11% of the time, so might see 10 or 11 during a regular game for Cole Hamels. However, as you point out, when he gets into 2-strike counts, he has been going to the curveball more and more. In fact, if you take a look back in 2011, only 13% of his strikeouts came on the curveball. And you go forward, each and every year, it goes up just a little bit, up to 28.6% now this season using that curveball. So he really likes it when he gets ahead of a batter. He uses a lot when he's in an account in his favor, and certainly uses a lot when he's got 2 strikes on a batter.
Well, he's faced all these National League teams so many times during his career. It's all part of his adjustment to try to keep them off balance and on their toes.
I think you're seeing that the swing and miss percentage go up because, frankly, it's gotten better. It just wasn't very good early on in his career, and now you look at it, it's got some bite on it.
And he really does pick the right times. Murph said it's the pitch he uses the least amount, but he picks the right time to utilize it.
And we've even seen him double up on that breaking ball and that curveball a couple times this year. If he throws it for a ball, he'll come right back with it and drop it in there for a strike.
Well, 1 ball and 2 strikes to Francisco Cervelli, who's had a very good year. He's zeroing in on the most games he's ever caught already in a season. And that one was just a bit high. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ground ball to short. Galvis charges and throws him out. Dugan here in the 2nd, and Corey Hart will be the batter.
Number 12, Corey Hart.
Toyota Major League Scoreboard. The Braves are on top of the Mets 5-1. Jace Peterson has a home run and 3 RBIs. Braves win that ball game. They're a game and a half out in the National League East. 1 game under 500. No balls and 2 strikes. Another foul ball. Remains 0-2. Hard hitting under 200. As we mentioned, he's going to get some playing time over the next 4 days. This is one of 4 consecutive left-handers that the Pirates will face coming up.
That is something.
There's a problem in that whole thing, though.
What's that?
Is that one of those left-handers, there would be a problem, but one of those left-handers is not Chris Sale. How about that? They face the White Sox and they don't face Sale.
He must be pitching today.
He's pitching today. That Hart waves at that one. 4 strikeouts for Hamels. He retires the Pirates in order here in the 2nd inning. So we've completed our first 2. Well, so far it's the pitcher's duel that we expected. I'm going to the fan section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, Ben, here we go. Who was the last Pirate before Andrew McCutchen last season to lead the National League in on-base percentage?
Last Pirate before Andrew McCutchen last season.
Yeah, I think you're gonna get this one. Carlos Ruiz just asked for the home plate umpire to give A.J. Burnett a new baseball. There's McCutchen. Carlos hitting .236, no homers, 11 RBIs. And he takes strike 1. It's 0-1. Over to third. And Ruiz is retired for the first out. What a way Cole Hamels is coming up. Well, W.B. Mason has time and time again given out this great giveaway at Citizens Bank Park. It's the collectible truck with the Phillies logo on both the top and also on the side. It's for Saturday, June 27th. It's a 3:05 start against the Washington Nationals. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. You can also check out the restrictions on that giveaway and all the other giveaways the Phillies have scheduled for the rest of the 2015 season. Hamels takes low, 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's a good-looking vehicle, Tom.
It is a good-looking vehicle.
Not like the trucks that you and I drive, but good-looking vehicle.
Chopper back toward the middle. Jordy Mercer's up with it. And there are 2 outs. Today's game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television or change the language through the menu on your cable box. I thought I had a big truck, but yours would beat mine up. All the stuff that you have on it.
Well, it's only 13 years old.
Your truck is 13 years old?
And in September of '03.
Wow. It still looks pretty good for a 13-year-old truck.
Yeah, almost 13 years.
Still looks pretty good for a truck that's almost 13 years old.
Too bad.
Then Revere takes strike one. It's 0-1.
180,000 miles. Not too bad.
So obviously you get the oil change on a regular basis.
That's right.
No balls and 2 strikes to Revere. He was retired by Harrison on a nice play his first time up. There's the 0-2 pitch coming to Ben Revere. Swing and a miss. He got him. Cervelli quickly out from behind home plate, flips to first. That's an 8-pitch third inning for A.J. Burnett. That's a third strikeout for the Pirates right-hander. We'll head to the bottom of the third inning. Phillies and the Pirates scoreless. New sirloin third-pound burgers. Choose from 3 varieties at $4.99 each. McDonald's, I'm loving it. Buy Chevrolet. Visit your local dealer at ChevyDealer.com. And buy the Pennsylvania Lottery. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day. Last to the third. Not a whole lot of offense for either team. Both the pitchers are on point so far. Jordy Mercer will lead it off. He was off yesterday for Pittsburgh. And he takes a pitch a bit low. 1 ball, no strikes. Jordy Mercer hitting .226 with 2 homers and 11 runs batted in. Freddie Galvis to his left a few steps. He slings it across the diamond for the first out. And that'll bring A.J. Burnett to the plate. A.J. hitting .125, no homers, 2 RBIs. Way outside, it's 1-0.
So do you think this is his last year, Tom?
I don't. No? I do not. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now he's talked about devoting more time to his family. He is a family guy. Goes home on every off day, back to Maryland. Well, tip, it's 1 ball, 2 strikes. But I think a lot will depend on the second half of the season. Because if he has a similar second half to what he's had here in the first half, I mean, I know he's probably made enough money to survive for the rest of his life and for his kids' life. But it's really difficult, I would think, to turn that kind of money down. Otherwise, he'll come back as a hitter. 5 strikeouts for Hamels.
Staring down Cole Hamels there. What'd you do that for, Cole? So that wasn't nice.
Or what do you think? You think he's done after this year?
He says he was, but he's smiling there. He's going to go look at that one on film, I think, Tom, and make the adjustment. I don't know. I think there'd be a lot of money to be left on the table there.
I would agree with that. And again, that may not be that big of a deal at this point in his life. There's a line drive base hit into left field for Harrison. He's now hit in 12 of the last 13 games he's played against the Phillies. Well, that'll bring Starling Marte to the plate. It's time now for our T-Mobile game changer. And we talk about Marte and the fact that he has 5 home runs against lefties, which is second only to Giancarlo Stanton. He's tied with Todd Frazier and Johnny Peralta. Those guys are among the National League leaders. Runner goes, pitches a strike, throw to second base is not in time. Stolen base number 5 for Harrison.
Gets a very good jump here, and Cole's not able to hang in the air with his right leg like he normally does, and Harrison steals that base with ease.
Thought he slid a little too early. It looked like he was having trouble getting to the base. No balls, 1 strike to Marte. And now it's 0-2.
Yeah, at this point, I just looked it up. A.J. Burnett has made $144,271,000. $144 million. So, yeah, he might be okay financially, but he's having fun pitching, that's for sure.
Over to third, that is a foul ball. Woo! Just foul. And it remains 1 ball and 2 strikes.
This guy kills the Phils. After his hit in his first inning, he's averaged now 392 lifetime against the fighting Phils. And this is close.
Jeff Nelson was right on it. Yeah, that was really close.
But that is not reviewable, Tom.
It is not reviewable. Galvis is up with it, and Hamels works around the 2-out single and stolen base by Josh Harrison. So 3 innings in the books here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Jeff Francoeur will face A.J. Burnett when we come back. elements. Trust Avery Labels with your most essential shipments. Who but W.B. Mason? Top of the fourth inning, Jeff Francoeur will lead it off. Francoeur has hit it 4 straight. He doubled his last time up against A.J. Burnett. It'll be Francoeur, Utley, and Ryan Howard for the Phils. First pitch is a breaking ball outside off the glove of Cervelli. And it's 1 ball, no strikes.
Changeup there at 85. That was a hard changeup.
Out towards center field. McCutcheon coming in, and Jeff Francoeur has his second hit of the day.
Died a hero.
Well, that'll bring Chase Utley to the plate. Murph, we saw the other day, Jeff Francoeur went to Laz Diaz and said, hey, my dad's in the stands, and they waved to each other. You can tell that there was some kind of relationship between Francoeur and Laz Diaz.
There is, and it goes back to Jeff Francoeur's first game as a big leaguer. I was just talking to David Francoeur about it. He said that when Jeff was called up to the Braves, they were playing the Cubs in his first start. He got up to home plate for his first at bat, and the entire stadium down there in Atlanta got to their feet and gave him a standing ovation. You know, here was a first-round pick that was coming up. He's a local kid, and everyone was excited to see him. So he was getting the standing ovation, and Laz Diaz was behind the plate, and he leaned into the catcher, Michael Barrett, and said, who is this guy? And Barrett said, well, you know, he's a local kid, and he's making his major league start. So Laz Diaz said, you know what, Francoeur, step out of the box. I need to clean this plate. He came out and dusted off the plate, allowed Francoeur to really enjoy the moment, and he got back behind the plate, and he said, hey, Jeff, that only happens once in your career. I hope you enjoyed it. So they have a special relationship, and neither of them have ever forgot it. Laz went over and said hi to David before the game, David Francoeur, and yeah, it was a special moment, certainly for a father, and I know Jeff remembers it as well.
Yeah, very classy by Laz Diaz.
It's a great story.
That's a great one.
Great story.
Thank goodness Michael Barrett knew the reason why they were cheering for Jeff Francoeur like that.
Michael's from the Georgia area as well.
Well, there you go.
Or Atlanta area, I should say, not Georgia area.
I say it's a big area.
It's a big area, isn't it, Tom?
He's from the East Coast as well.
Okay, Greg, thank you.
All right, Greg with 3 Gs. Oh, that was funny. Ground ball foul off the dugout roof. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Utley, his first time up, grounded out to Harrison.
Never understood why hitters look down to third base coach with 2 strikes.
Think it's just a habit?
I guess.
That one's out to center field. McCutcheon will wait for it. Francoeur goes halfway and then heads back to first.
Oh, smoked.
And one away for Ryan Howard.
Good swing there by Chase. More of a fluid swing like we saw in that single that he got off Watson yesterday, the left-hander from Pittsburgh. More of a fluid swing. Still very short.
Howard rolls over on the first pitch. It's 0-1. Ryan was robbed by Andrew McCutchen his first time up on a leaping grab in right center field. Sounds like he broke his bat, and Rodriguez will make the catch for the second out. And Frank Core will go back to first. 2 outs. Franco struck out his first time up. Franco struck out his first time on a couple of really nasty breaking pitches. He's now 9 for 20 against the Pirates.
I think
season series.
I think he will get a steady diet of breaking balls from Burnett.
There you go again.
It's just so tight, you just can't pick up the rotation on it.
Well, Ryan Sandberg talked about the adjustments that Franco has made as a hitter since spring training, and he's also talked about the adjustments that he's made even this year, at bat to at bat, pitch to pitch. Let's see if he can make the adjustment here, you know, to all these breaking pitches. There goes Frank Core. Burnett steps off, throws to second, and he got him. Jeff was trying to time it. 1-4 on the putout at second base. No runs, 1 hit, and nobody left. Phillies will go back to work defensively against the Pirates when we return. To take you. Visit buyatoyota.com to find out. Toyota, let's go places. Buy Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. And buy the Quality Plus Ford stores. Go further. Last of the 4th inning, each team with 2 hits. Jeff Francoeur has both of the hits for the Phils. Josh Harrison and Starling Marte have the hits for the Pirates. Andrew McCutchen takes a healthy hack at the first one from Hamels here in the 4th. And it's 0-1. He fly to center his first time up on a leaping grab by Ben Revere. Line drive under the glove of Freddie Galvis. And McCutchen's thinking about 2, but then puts the brakes on. So a leadoff single here in the 4th inning. Well, here's a look at the pickoff that ended last inning. Francisco Cervelli came jumping out from behind home plate.
And what a lot of pitchers will do, and AJ does not do it, is the fact that he doesn't panic. Some guys don't know what foot to step off with. You always have to make sure you step off with your right foot if you're a right-hander. And Cervelli comes out and acknowledges the fact, hey, Man's in no man's land.
Well, if Burnett had come to the plate, if he didn't respond to what Cervelli was doing, that ball would have went all the way back to the backstop.
Yes, it would have.
Hamels again throwing over, trying to keep McCutchen close. Cole has balked twice in this season. Popped him up. Howard over toward the seats. And he's out of room. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Let's check in with Murph. Murph, you got a special report going on, huh?
I do indeed, Tom. Yeah, the Phillies have just announced that Chad Billingsley, who has been playing long toss and threw a couple of bullpens over the last couple of days, is indeed ready to throw a rehab start. So he's going to do that on Tuesday night, and he'll do that with the Iron Pigs, Lehigh Valley. So that'll happen on Tuesday night. We don't have any idea of how many rehab starts that he would need before he was able to come back and get himself into the rotation, but I would imagine it'll be more than one. But moving in the right direction is Chad Billingsley, so we'll monitor his progress on Tuesday night, guys.
Well, I think this is a little earlier than they anticipated when he injured the lat. They thought it would take maybe to the All-Star break before he would come back. So I think he's a couple weeks ahead of schedule, which is a good thing.
I was asking you about him today, wasn't I, Tom?
Yes, you were. Sean Rodriguez struck out his first time up. Slide step by Hamels. We haven't seen him do that often this season or throughout his career. There is an emphasis, though, on making sure that you're keeping an eye on the running game. Part of that is to help Carlos Ruiz. Out to right field, Dominic Brown will get there to make the catch. And they're 2 down here in the 4th inning. So 2 away, and Francisco Cervelli, who grounded out to shortstop his first time up, will be the batter. You like Dom Brown better in right field than left field?
I like Frank Core in right field, just for the fact he's a little bit more accurate with his arm. Both have very strong arms, but Dom Brown played all left field last year, so I was kind of surprised to see him. When I saw the lineup today, I was very surprised to see Frank Core in left and Dom in right.
Cervelli hits one out toward Dominic Brown in right field. And they'll hold McCutchen at second base, so that's runners on first and second with 2 men down. And Corey Hart is going to be the hitter.
I guess I really didn't answer your question. I'd rather have Frank Core in right field, I think.
No, you said that. I think that, moving forward, I mean, Jeff is considered an extra outfielder, a 4th outfielder. They want Dominic to play every day. I think Jeff is going to wind up playing some for Cody in left field and then some for Dominic Brown in right field. So they're going to utilize his versatility.
You know what, Tom? The way they're struggling for offense, I mean, Frank Core's now up to 277. I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see him in there more frequently.
Like today, where there's a right-hander on the mound.
Yeah.
A lot of times we've seen him against left-handers. I agree with you on that.
I saw Larry Bow in the clubhouse. I said, "What's up, Bo?" And he goes, "Just looking for some offense, man." So you got a guy that's swinging the bat. You have to put him in.
Obviously, everybody was frustrated yesterday with the bases loaded, nobody out situation that could have given the Phils at least a tie, if not some more. Two balls, no strikes to Hart. Waves at a changeup, a high changeup, 2-1.
It's not right.
What, to be able to throw a changeup like that at any time?
You know, it's 2-0 changeup to the 7-hole hitter. What a luxury to have. And now he can do whatever he wants.
Now that ball hit him in the foot. Fourth batter that Hamels has hit this year, and he's frustrated with himself. He went with the curveball on that. And now the bases are loaded for Jordy Mercer.
I don't know if I'm really digging this call here to throw that breaking ball in that situation. Yeah, you still have another pitch to work with if the count does go full. But I'm going for the jugular on that 2-2 pitch.
First pitch is in there for a strike, and it's 0-1. Jordy Mercer grounded out to Galvis his first time up. He's 0 for 1 today, 1 for 5 in this series. We mentioned he did not play in yesterday's ball game. In the dirt again, 2 balls and 1 strike. Over to third base. Franco's got it. He'll just go to the bag, and the side is retired. So Hamels works out of a bases loaded jam here in the 4th inning. Pirates leave 3. Will lead for the top of the 5th inning. Phillies and the Pirates. trivia quiz answer. All right, Ben, here we go. Who was the last Pirate before Andrew McCutchen last season to lead the National League in on-base percentage? Give you a couple hints. This guy had a lifetime on-base percentage of .444. The
only one I can think of would be Barry Bonds.
Well, keep thinking it. That is correct. Back in 1992, he had an on-base percentage of .456.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, that's nothing. Some of these questions you can go back and relive a little history. And for Barry Bonds, he had 4 years of an on-base percentage that was better than .500. And 1 year where his on-base percentage was .609. Franco taps one in front of the plate. Burnett's off the mound and has it, one away. Dominic Brown is now the batter. We mentioned that A.J. Burnett just seems to be comfortable here in Pittsburgh. And you look at his numbers, 2012, 2013, and this year, 32 and 23, 9 games over 500. With an ERA of 3.20. I mean, with the Jays, he was 38 and 26. He won a world championship with the Yankees, but I don't know, he won some games there, but he just never seemed like he was comfortable in New York.
It's a pitching coach's nightmare.
Dominic Brown hits one to left for the second time. And there are 2 outs.
For the simple fact that he just has the stuff. We just got done playing the Reds. Brian Price is the manager. He was our pitching coach in Seattle. And Freddie Garcia drove Brian Price nuts. He drove me nuts because he had 93 to 95 would sink and tilt. And all Freddie wanted to do was throw sliders.
But why is that?
Because he liked missing bats. Freddie could go through a game with 85 pitches. When I was with San Diego and we played Seattle, I knew I was going to break 3 bats every game against Freddie. Here's 94 to 96 would sink and go break your bat to shortstop 3 times and thanks for coming. But Freddie developed this slider and that's all he wanted to throw. And that's why I say about A.J. Burnett, because he has all this stuff. He's always had this stuff. But he walks guys. He throws the breaking ball too much. He doesn't command the fastball. And that's why it could be a nightmare.
Well, it's part of the reason, I guess, that he's close to a 500 pitcher for his career, 161 and 157. As Galvis fouls it straight back, and it's 2-1.
There it is.
Another foul ball by Galvis to remain alive. There remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. 53 pitches so far for A.J. Burnett. That one's hooked to right field. Rodriguez on the run. Dives! Oh, what a play by Sean Rodriguez. Playing right field today for Polanco. And Rodriguez has just robbed Freddie Galvis of an extra base hit. He's more of an infielder, but playing a little outfield here today. He got a great jump and some great concentration to reel that one in. Philly's been robbed on 2 different occasions in this ballgame so far. Once by McCutchen, once by Rodriguez. RBI League has been teaching kids how to play the game since 1989. Donate a baseball glove or two to the next generation of baseball greats at the Citizens Bank kiosk at Citizens Bank Park. Citizens Bank, we want to help you bank better. So next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. Here's A.J. Burnett to lead it off. He takes a strike. Boy, A.J. Burnett has been bailed out by his defense on 2 occasions here today. That catch by Rodriguez, which finished up the top of the 5th inning, could be one of the best plays you'll see in baseball this afternoon. And you pointed out, Ben, at the end of the inning, there were 6 or 7 of his teammates that were standing outside the dugout waiting for him.
All but A.J. and Cervelli.
Swing and a miss. And Burnett is down on strikes for the 2nd time.
This is as good as it gets. I mean, that's full extension. Like Superman on that one.
That was only his 63rd, or is only his 63rd start in the outfield. We mentioned he's more of an infielder. Pirates use him as a defensive replacement a lot of times over at first base. First pitch to Harrison is a strike. It's 0-1. Think about this lineup today for the Pirates and how versatile some of these guys are. You have Gong playing third. He's normally a shortstop. Harrison playing second. He's normally the third baseman. And Rodriguez playing right field, and he's normally a defensive replacement at first base.
And that's what makes guys like Josh Harrison so versatile, like you said.
Trying to Major League scoreboard. Nolan Arenado's hit a 2-run home run. The Rockies are on top of the Marlins 3-0. As Cole Hamels picks up his 2nd straight strikeout. He has 8 overall.
Actually up above where Chooch wanted that high fastball, but Harrison goes chasing. Right now he's just got him. He has him guessing. Just has him guessing.
It's 99 strikeouts on the year for Hamels. 99 strikeouts on the season in 92 innings. On pace for a 200 strikeout year. 0-2.
That's more than 1 an inning.
Sure is. I like how you've improved your math skills as this year's moved on.
I use my calculator, my abacus.
Your abacus. Is that why your bag's so heavy? 0-2 pitch. Inside, 1-2.
Cole's used that cutter a little more today.
Swing and a miss. He got him. He just struck out the side. That's 9 strikeouts for Hamels. Strikeout is completed by Ruiz throwing to first base. So we played 5 innings. Both these pitchers, boy, they're throwing a heck of a game. Michael has been hot at the corner with his glove since his return and has defended the left side of the infield with his strong arm. At the plate, he has got into the swing of things in a hurry, and his power has definitely been on display, depositing 4 home runs, 8 extra base hits, and 8 RBIs in the first week of June alone. Franco's contributions are indeed welcomed and are brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Michael is 0 for 2 in today's ball game. Phillies offense hasn't really managed a whole bunch against A.J. Burnett. Same can be said about the Pirates offense against Cole Hamels. We'll start the top of the 6th. Phillies with just 2 hits so far, both by Jeff Francoeur. First pitch is in there for a strike. It's 0-1. A big breaking call by A.J. Burnett. Ruiz floats it foul, and it's 0-2. By the way, we're scoreless here. They're scoreless in Reading in the 4th inning. The reason I bring that up is because you realize how many innings they've played in the last 3 days? The Reading Titans?
No.
They've played 45 innings of baseball the last 3 days. They went 15 again last night.
Going through some coffee.
Yeah, they
in
are.
that clubhouse today.
1-2 pitch to Ruiz. Up and in, 2-2.
That is something.
45. 3 games. And the line drive caught by Harrison had Ruiz played perfectly. 6 in a row now retired by Burnett. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 13 years. Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more every night on every device. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Cole Hamels lofts it down the left field line, and Marte is there. 2 outs here in the 6th. Just 60 pitches so far for A.J. Burnett. Over to first, and Corey Hart stumbles to the bag. And it's a 1-2-3 6th inning for A.J. Burnett. Neither one of these pitchers is fooling around here this afternoon. Very few pitches for Burnett to get through 6. Plays of the game. And we're going to look at some strikeouts from Hamels, from Burnett. These guys have both been right around the strike zone the entire afternoon.
They have, and they've been very, very good. I mean, as advertised, we know what we're going to get. A lot of strikeouts, a lot of ground balls, and A.J. Burnett just has it going today. I'll tell you what, breaking ball is very good, and it's getting a lot of swings and misses.
So he'll take a breather. Hamels with 9 strikeouts so far as we begin the top or bottom of the 6th inning. First pitch to Andrew McCutchen. Ground ball to shortstop. Galvis charges. And one away.
Do you think we take Cole for granted?
That's a good question. I don't feel like I do, just because I think I've realized how good he is.
Let me rephrase. Do you just expect this every time?
I think I'm hopeful for it every single time.
I'll be honest. I expect it out of him. And I think sometimes you do take it for granted. Like, oh, there's another ground ball. You know, there's another strikeout on a changeup. That's just what he does. But you just don't realize how good his stuff is and how well he can pitch. The dude pitches. And one thing I think he's got a lot better at in his career is competing, not letting things get to him. He competes. He wants to be out there in critical situations.
Well, and I think that these last few years have been a true test for him because of the lack of run support. Now, wouldn't you agree with that? I think there has to come a point where you just put it all aside.
I think the maturity level has grown in the fact that, okay, I know I'm not going to get a lot of run support. All I can worry about, and it's okay to be selfish in a situation like that, all I can worry about is Cole Hamels. All I can worry about is me giving my team a chance to win and pitching the best that I can. And he doesn't, yes, he'd like a W next to his name at the end of a ball game, but he's been good.
3 balls, 2 strikes to Gong, who is 0 for 2. He has struck out twice.
Change up, Tom?
I would throw change up.
Throw it.
Did he go? No. This is Laz Diaz. So that's the first walk issue today. He's got a hit batter and a walk now. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Jefferson, where health is all we do. Call 1-800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. And by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers and our most exciting lineup ever. Shop Nissan.com. Well, the runner at first base, here comes Sean Rodriguez. Rodriguez starting in right field today. Mentioned earlier, he's made 9 appearances in right field. This is his 5th start. He went the whole 2014 season without starting a game in right field. Overall, he's made 13 career starts as a right fielder.
Double play would come in handy here. He's throwing that cutter a lot more today because it's moving so much. I mean, that was a big sweeper there.
He got him. That's strikeout number 10 for Cole Hamels. Another double-digit game for Hamels. It's becoming old hat for him during the course of his career. He's over 100 strikeouts for the season. And I do believe that Rodriguez and the home plate umpire, Corey Blazer, were not on the same page. And Clint Hurdle came out to kind of cool things off, although he seemed pretty heated too. Was there a pitch that we missed? Did we miss something? That
I didn't see any.
I thought they looked pretty good. I think he's been pretty good behind the plate today.
Rodriguez is going to need a new bat. His next at bat, though.
There's the foul ball. It's 0-1. High fastball, and it's 0-2. Hamels now with 28 double-digit strikeout games during his career. Steve Carlton has the most in Phillies history with 70. And Curt Schilling is second with 48. And with that success, with all those double-digit strikeout games, Hamels is third all-time in strikeouts for the Phils. No balls, 2 strikes. A little high, and it's 1-2. Check swing. Did he go? Yes, he did. Strikeout number 11 for Hamels. He picks up 2 in this 6th inning. No runs, no hits, and 1 man left. We'll head to the 7th inning, still in search of a little offense for the Phillies. Time now for your Delaware Valley Honda dealers game summary. We're going to the 7th inning, and nobody has scored a run so far between the Phils and the Pirates. Jeff Francoeur has both hits. Cole Hamels 11 strikeouts in 6 innings. A.J. Burnett only 3 strikeouts in 6 innings, but he's only thrown 31 pitches in the last 3 innings. 31.
Threw 7 last inning. That's less than he warms up with. It's his usual 8.
Well, here is Francoeur, who's 2 for 2, a double and a single. And he hits that one sharply. Ooh, snagged on one hop. And Francoeur robbed of the hit. And there's one away. So these guys that are playing different positions today are making an impact. Gong there, and Rodriguez earlier on a ball out toward the corner in right field.
That was a heck of a play there to get to this ball. Very soft hands. You see him go with it there. He gets to it, gets to his feet. Makes a good strong throw to first base. That is a very good play there.
Well, 9 straight retired by Burnett, and here is Chase Utley, who is 0 for 2. Utley is grounded out to second and flied out to center field. Outside, 1 ball and no strikes.
It's back to the black bat, Tom.
Natural colored one just wasn't doing it for him. 1 ball, 1 strike. Oh, he started this game by saying that the Phillies were 1 for 22 with runners in scoring position in this series. Today, they're 0 for 2. They've only had 2 at-bats. Those 2 at-bats came in the first inning when Jeff Rancourt doubled. Utley grounded out, and Howard flied out to right center field. Great play by McCutchen. Utley hits it foul over the Pirates dugout. 2 balls, 2 strikes. So 1 for 24 in this series with runners in scoring position. Again hits it to the left side. This one's going to stay in play. Gong makes the running attempt and makes the catch. You got to go a long way to corral that. That's 10 in a row. Ryan Howard's coming up. Let's check in with Greg Murphy with the Major League Notebook. Murph.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. Presented by St. Joseph's University. And the Miami Marlins are close to having 2 big pieces return to their starting rotation. Jose Fernandez, who's coming back from Tommy John surgery, will jump up from single A, where he had 2 rehab starts, and then he'll go to triple A for his next rehab start. And he'll have a couple of there, but they're hoping to get him back pretty soon. And Jared Kosar also will have 1 more start at triple A. He's coming back from vertigo. He'll have 1 more rehab start, and then they expect him back in their starting rotation as early as next week. So that is good news for the Marlins. Also, big news in baseball. Byron Buxton, the #1 overall prospect in all of baseball, called up, making his major league debut today. That game is still in the first inning. He is playing center field and batting 9th. And what's interesting, guys, is with Buxton being called up, the top 3 prospects in baseball were all called up this week. Linder in Cleveland was called up, and Correa, of course, in Houston, called up earlier this week. So the 3 of the 1, 2, 3 all making their major league debuts this week. So a lot of fun if you're following the prospects in Major League Baseball, guys.
Yeah, let's face it, Carlos Correa is erupted in his first week in the big leagues. Twins are looking for a little bit of a boost, although they're just 2 games back in the Central. 33-28. What a story. Here's Maikel Franco after the base hit by Ryan Howard, and it's 1 ball, no strikes to Franco.
Paul Molitor has done a phenomenal job with that Twins team.
They trail the Royals by 2. They're a game and a half ahead of the Tigers, who are in 3rd place. That one's whacked out towards shortstop, and Jordy Mercer will go the short way, and the inning is over. 6-4 in the putout at second base. Another easy inning for A.J. Burnett. It's time to stretch here at PNC Park in a scoreless game. now. Both these pitchers have been very good. Time now for our Hyundai defensive plays of the game. This is a big one right here. McCutchen goes up against the wall in the first inning. A real one in against Ryan Howard. Phillies could have taken the lead in the first inning, but it wasn't the best one of the day. Freddie Galvis hooks this one toward right field corner, and Sean Rodriguez, not normally an outfielder, is able to make a diving catch. And those are our Hyundai defensive plays of the game, brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers. Be careful, Ben. You don't want to go out there. The Renegades are here. They look awfully mean. They look like a combination of Daniel Boone and
meets
and Captain
Jack
Hook.
Sparrow.
Oh, Jack Sparrow, yeah.
Renegades of the what? Rotunda?
Cape Crusaders here in honor of A.J. Burnett.
It's a grown man there, Tom.
That's a grown man. Yep. A.J. kind of likens himself to, I don't think Adam West. I think it's more, who would you say, George Clooney as Batman?
Michael Keaton, maybe.
Michael Keaton, maybe. Here's Corey Hart to lead it off. They're waiting for something. Not sure what. I believe Jeff Nelson was looking at the clock. Corey Hart waves at the first pitch, and it's 0-1. Hamels' earned run average has dropped to 2.99 with what he has done here today. 0-1 pitch to Hart. Fastball on the inside corner. It's 0-2. That pitch right there, that location right there, I think is what the Pirates have been concerned about from the home plate umpire. You see what Hamels has done here at PNC Park during his career. Another strikeout, a wave and a miss at a curveball. That is number 12 for Cole Hamels. He has struck out 3 consecutive hitters. Every time the Phillies pitchers retire, the opposition 1-2-3. And Hamels only has 2 1-2-3 innings today. Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. 12 strikeouts for Cole Hamels.
You see his pitch count there at 98. Really, a lot had to do with that 4th inning where he loaded the bases up and had to make a few extra pitches. But he has been in cruise control.
Mercer fouls it away, and it's no balls and 2 strikes to him. Here you see the pitches by inning, 19 in the first, 19 in the 4th. Other than that, it hasn't really been a big deal for him. 16 pitches in his last inning. He's at 100 right now overall. That one's looped out toward right field. Here comes Dominic Brown, makes the running grab, and there are 2 outs. Thursday, July 30th, relive history at our 6th annual Phillies Alumni Luncheon. We'll recognize Pat Burrell, who will be inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame on Friday, July 31st. You can enjoy lunch at the Diamond Club, photos with the 1980 and 2008 World Series trophies, an auction benefiting Phillies charities, optional tour of Citizens Bank Park. Go to Phillies.com/alumni luncheon for more information. 2 outs, bottom of the 7th inning. And here is A.J. Burnett off the end of the bat. A slow ground ball. And Hamels will just wait for A.J. and then slowly trot to the bag, and the side is retired. 1, 2, 3, go the Pirates. 7 in the books for Cole Hamels. It's been a dominant performance, and now he wants some runs. You can't go wrong when you buy right. And buy your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Del Val Honda dealer or visit DelValHondaDealers.com today. Top of the 8th inning. Phillies and the Pirates scoreless. A.J. Burnett locked in a duel against Cole Hamels. If you're interested in following the Phillies on an upcoming road trip, well, you are in luck. From August 6th till the 10th, the Phillies will be in San Diego, and you can also. Call 877-833-7326 or go to Phillies.com/Phillies Vacations. You get 4-night accommodations, brunch with us announcers, a tour of Petco Park. Now, don't take it from me. Take it from the guy who played in San Diego for a good portion of his career, how great that city is.
It is beautiful.
If you've never been out there, I mean, it's just a wonderful place to be.
It is beautiful.
Gregory Polanco takes over in right field. Moving from right field to first base is Sean Rodriguez as we go to the top of the 8th inning. Dominic Brown leads it off, and he takes outside. It's 1-0.
And growing up where I grew up in Pennsylvania, Delaware County, we have 4 seasons. In San Diego, they do not. And every morning I would wake up and being the naive person I am, I think, it's got to be different today. Well, there's got to be different.
Ground ball to second base. Harrison's up with it, 1 away. Now, you didn't spend the off seasons out there, did you?
No.
Did you ever think about it?
No. Home is home. My family's there. I love where I live. Okay, Tom, I did some recon.
Oh, okay.
In the last half inning, I sprinted down that long hallway to get a refreshment and some pretzels, and I saw Scott Profrock in there, Phillies assistant GM, and he is A.J. Burnett's neighbor.
Correct.
And I said, Scott,
they've coached basketball together.
I said, is A.J. done after this year? He said 100%.
Really?
I said 100%. He said 100% done.
Not 98%.
And Scott was talking with Ray Sears, the Pirates pitching coach, and he said there's no reason for him to stop pitching. There's no reason.
I would agree with that.
So he's a freak. He's getting better and better.
A 1 pitch to Galvis. Galvis takes low. 1 ball, 1 strike.
So there you have it. So that answers our question.
Thank you for doing that investigating.
I do what I can do when I can do it, Tom.
Right over top of it. It's 1-2. Well, you saw Ken Giles warming up in the bullpen. Andres Blanco is standing with a bat and a helmet next to a garbage can in the Phillies dugout. Hamels looks like he's done. Just over 100 pitches here today. And we'll see what happens if his spot does not come up here in the top of the 8th inning. In the dirt, and it's 2-2. Bob McClure and Ryan Sandberg. That one's hit sharply, but it's right at Harrison. Another ground ball out for Burnett. So 2 outs. Tomorrow night at 6, Derek Gunn gives you all the latest news on the Eagles and what's going on around the National Football League. Watch Quick Slants presented by Nissan. Only on Comcast Sportsnet. Carlos Ruiz is 0 for 2. He's grounded out and he's lined out. Well, Blanco is indeed in the on-deck circle.
I got to tell you, Tom, I kind of felt like Magnum doing that research, that recon.
Oh, really?
Investigation work.
Is Murph Higgins?
Just need a red Ferrari.
2 balls, no strikes. I, of course, would be TC because I'm the only one that could fly a helicopter.
This is true. If I ever needed a captain out on a boat, that would be you.
That one's looped out to right center field, and that's going to drop for a hit for Carlos. So he's aboard with 1 man or 2 men down. Phillies only with 4 hits here this afternoon, and that's the one of the 4. And here comes Andres Blanco, who will pinch hit for Cole Hamels. The fact that the Phillies do not have Darren Ruff anymore on the roster means that there's not a bona fide home run hitter. Not that, I mean, Darren was the closest thing to it the Phillies had coming off the bench, particularly when Frank Gore would play. But Blanco has been their best pinch hitter.
Yes. He's put together some very good at-bats. Very good at-bat yesterday in pinch hitting role. Flew out to left field, fairly deep.
This one he lifts it to shallow left field. Sterling Marte, I believe, sees it and makes the catch, and the side is retired. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left. A.J. Burnett, 8 scoreless innings. Cole Hamels, 7 scoreless innings. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. Today, double digits in strikeouts. He's done after 7, but it was 7 wonderful innings for him this afternoon.
It was, and he had all 4 going for him. The changeup was nasty, as it most of the time is. Fastball, very good location. Was able to pound that ball in on righties all day long. The cutter was exceptional today. A lot of movement on that. Mixing a couple breaking balls. Breaking ball wasn't as sharp as we've seen it, but he was just dynamic today.
Well, he'll give way to Ken Giles. Giles will start the bottom of the 8th inning against the top of the Pirates order. Josh Harrison leads it off. It'll be Harrison, Marte, and McCutchen in the scoreless game. First pitch is low, 1 ball and no strikes. Hamels 1 walk, 1 hit batter, 12 strikeouts today. Finished with 102 pitches.
73 strikes.
Had 20 first pitch strikes with 27 batters that he faced. Good slider by Giles. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And I know you are not in favor of the DH in the National League.
I'm not.
But I would like to see Cole Hamels keep going. But you had to lift him for a pinch hitter.
See, I think they were going to lift him anyway.
No, not with 102 pitches.
You don't think so?
No.
I think he was done.
No.
I wouldn't want him to be done, but I think he was throttling back. I think he was. I don't think it was his choice, but 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hamels 7 innings, 12 strikeouts, as we mentioned. He scattered 4 hits over those 7. In fact, he didn't allow a hit in his last 3 innings. In the air to left field. That'll be playable for Jeff Francoeur. Giles may have gotten away with a little bit of a hanger there. But no harm, no foul. 1 out here in the 8th.
He definitely gets away with a hanger. It actually backed up so much, ball got in a little bit on Harrison.
Well, Sterling Marte will be the hitter. He is 1 for 3. An infield hit his first time up. A ground out to short and a strikeout.
When I say back up, to the folks at home that may not know what that means, a backup sliders, you expect, as a right-hander, you expect a slider to go down and away from you. So you see the rotation, you expect it to go down and away, and as a hitter, sometimes you want to go after it because you recognize rotation. A backup slider means it kind of goes the opposite direction. So if it's supposed to go south, what would that be, southwest, right? If it's supposed to go southwest, it actually goes northeast. It backs up. And then you end up jamming yourself.
Line drive to left field. And Francoeur comes in. He'll play it on a hop, and Marte has a 1-out single here in the bottom of the 8th inning. On Sunday, June 28th, when the Phillies take on the Washington Nationals, all fans 14 and younger will receive the Fanatic alternate jersey, compliments of Pico. Get your tickets for the 3-game series against the Nationals by going to Phillies.com. Andrew McCutchen is 1 for 3. Singled his second time up. That was in the 4th. Phillies have lost 9 straight road games, 5 straight on this road trip alone. Trying to end that slide here today. Good slider. You got him jumping at it. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes.
It's almost a put-away slider there, Tom. You see that ball in the strike zone for such a long time and see that late break on it.
Trying to get a very tough hitter here with a runner at first base. Time is called. Got him with a slider. 2 outs. Strikeout number 1 for Giles. 13 strikeouts today between Hamels and Giles.
Just another really good pitch. You see such a good hitter like Andrew McCutchen take a swing like that. He's just not picking up any rotation. One thing I was impressed with when I caught him in January, we did that little piece on him. the rotation. A couple of the sliders he threw, yes, you could see rotation, but the majority of them, I couldn't pick up any spin really.
Now it's down the left field line. It'll be foul into the seats, and it's 0-2. Runner goes, pitch is swung on and missed, and the inning is over. Boy, he had a nasty slider in this one. Ken Giles allows a base hit, but leaves that base runner. No runs, one hit, one man left. 14 strikeouts today for Phillies pitching. We'll head to the ninth. Families available on select weekend dates. You can order your tickets now by going to Phillies.com. Go to Phillies.com. Check out which dates are being used for the family packs. No score. Top of the ninth inning. Top of the order due up against A.J. Burnett. Burnett will face Ben Revere, Jeff Francoeur, and Chase Utley. Ken Giles going into the dugout after an excellent inning. Congratulated by Cole Hamels and Carlos Ruiz. He had a very good slider. Here comes Ryan Sandberg.
Way to throw the ball at it, baby. See? Water under the bridge, Tom.
Guess you have to have a short memory when you get heated exchanges like that.
Especially when you play every day. That's your family for the summer. You spend more time with your teammates than you do your actual family. So you're going to have altercations. Things are going to happen.
That one is sprayed out towards shortstop. Backhanded and one hop by Mercer. The throw to first dropped by Rodriguez. Ben may have beaten it anyway, but the drop opens the door here in the top of the ninth inning for the Phillies.
I'm not so sure, Tom. I think he may have been out.
Think so?
I do. And I'm wrong on these the majority of the time. However, I think he may have gotten him. He would have been out.
He would have been out, yep.
And the ball reached him in the air, did it not?
It looked like it did.
It's a good start.
Well, he can't make every play. Rodriguez made that diving play earlier in right field. Here is Francoeur. Jeff is 2 for 3. Robbed of a hit his last time up. And it's 0-1. They have scored that a base hit for Ben Revere. So he's hit in 6 consecutive games. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, we take a peek at what's going on in Milwaukee. Brewers do not have a hit through 4 innings. They trail the Nationals 2-0. Jose Lobaton has an RBI. On the outside corner, and it's 0-2 to Francoeur. I do not believe Jeff Francoeur agreed with that. Phillies dugout did not agree with that pitch.
Pitches in the 9th.
He does have bullpen action behind him, but he hasn't really overdone it here today. The ball's 2 strikes to Francoeur. Revere goes. The pitch is tapped or missed, and it goes back to the backstop. Then Revere will hold up at second base. Francoeur is out. Technically, first base is occupied, even though Revere was running. Boy, it sounded like he got a piece of it, but it must have been Cervelli's glove and the ground that caused that noise.
Cervelli, I know he was running on that play, but once you see that ball in the dirt, you really have to, especially one that's that short, you really just want to see if you can just keep it in front of him. He's going to get second base regardless.
So runner in scoring position. It's only the second base runner the Phillies have had in scoring position here today. Francoeur was the other one back in the first. Chase Utley's 0 for 3. 1 hit in his last 28 at bats. And he hits this one down the line. It's a foul ball. Just foul. Jeff Nelson spun and took a peek at it. Now that is reviewable. That particular play, if the Phillies feel like it did hit some chalk, they can review it, and then it's up to the umpires to place the runners. And Ryan Sandberg is coming out to talk to Corey Blazer. Jeff Nelson's walking down the line.
He's had a couple close ones today.
Yep. Ooh, looks like it kicked something up, but it did look foul, didn't it? All right, so they will review this, and if they look at what we just saw there, this will stay a foul ball.
I thought I saw a little bit of white.
Well, I did too, but I don't know if that was the chalk or if that was just
us hoping for it.
Well, or dirt just kicking up. But they will look at that.
But what do you do? Is it a single? Is it a double?
No, I think it's a double, and Revere scores. Now, the umpires will look at it. But I think just to where the ball was, they would score that a double. And here is the call. And a foul ball. So Jeff Nelson is correct. And it has been confirmed that that was a foul ball. Jeff Nelson's looking right at it, and it is a foul ball. Now, maybe it was just grass that popped up there, Ben.
Yeah. The glare on my monitor, it could have been.
Revere's going. The pitch is taken. The throw to third is high. He went off the bag. He's out. .25 on the caught stealing. He would have beaten it, or he did beat it, but he slid off the bag.
We've seen this happen to Ben Revere quite often. Why don't you start your slide sooner?
Well, they've been trying to get him to do that. He and Cesar Hernandez. He's on the bag, no tag, and now is off the bag.
He stole that with ease. It's a great play, but slide sooner.
And that's a strike. 1-2. So the pitch was a ball to Utley when Revere was running. They have talked a bunch this year to both Cesar Hernandez and Revere about their slides. In the dirt, 2-2. He pulls it foul, and the count remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. .94 pitches, 68 strikes, 26 balls. The 2-2 pitch to Utley. In the dirt, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Let's get Paps in this game.
Three balls, 2 strikes to Chase. And there's ball 4, so he's aboard. And that is the first walk issued by A.J. Burnett. Cervelli thought it was a strike. Burnett thought it was a strike. And Ryan Howard will be the hitter.
It's one of the worst reactions I've ever seen by A.J. Burnett right there. Completely turned his back and just stood on the opposite side of the mound. Make it hurt, Ryan.
There goes Utley. 0-1 is in the dirt. Utley will swipe second base, so he's in scoring position. Second stolen base of the year for Chase. Jared Hughes is in the bullpen for the Pirates. And now Cervelli's going out to talk to A.J. Burnett. Runners in scoring position. It's been a huge storyline for the Phillies during this series. It was a big one the first night for Clint Hurdle's team. It got better in yesterday's game, but for the Phillies, it has been an issue the entire series. They're 1 for 24 with runners in scoring position. Now they've got a runner out at second base with Ryan Howard up. The count 1 ball, 1 strike. Inside, 2-1.
I'd take it 2 for 25.
This will be the 100th pitch of the day for Burnett. That was the same pitch that he missed on the first offering from A.J. Burnett. Two balls, 2 strikes. Chopper right side. That's a fair ball. Rodriguez has got it. And A.J. Burnett has thrown 9 shutout innings here this afternoon. The Phillies leave one in scoring position. So we'll move to the bottom of the 9th inning. Pirates and the Phils still locked at a scoreless duel.
Up in a serious pitcher's duel, and when this is all said and done, the Phillies will get on an airplane, head on down to Baltimore for what will be a 4-game series against the Baltimore Orioles, but 2 games in Baltimore. Here are the pitching matchups. Aaron Harang will take on Wei-Yin Chen on Monday night at 7:05, and then on Tuesday it'll be Jerome Williams for the Phils and the righty Chris Tillman for the Orioles, and they'll come back to Philadelphia to play 2 more. But guys, this one is not over yet. Send it back upstairs to you.
A lot of hugs in the dugout for A.J. Burnett. 9 scoreless innings here this afternoon. He and Cole Hamels were fantastic. Hamels goes 7 innings, and Burnett 9 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. 101 pitches. I do believe they'll go to the bullpen if we go extra innings. ERA is now dipped to 1.89. We saw him go 9 innings last year on the 20th of June against the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, here's Luis Garcia, 30th ball game for Garcia, 2-2 with an ERA of 4.18. And he will face Sean Rodriguez to begin things. Clock is still sitting at 28-27. And now they'll go. Rodriguez is hitless in 3 at-bats here this afternoon. First pitch inside, 1 ball, no strikes. A slider by Garcia. Will be out of play down the right field line. 1 ball, 1 strike.
How about this stat? Ruben Frank just tweeted out Hamels' 41 career games of 6+ innings, allowing 2 runs or fewer without a win, are the most in Major League Baseball history by a pitcher in his first 300 games. It's amazing.
I guess we have sat here and watched it, and we always talk about run support. I mean, you think about even last year when his numbers across the board were good except for his win-loss record. 2 balls, 1 strike. Chopper over to third. Franco can't get it. He had time probably to glove it and throw, but it was a split-second decision. Now that'll be a base hit for Sean Rodriguez.
Ball that's chopped like that, it's going to have off the plate, it's going to have a ton of spin on it. And once it takes that second bounce, it's just going to get away from you. You see right off the top of the plate, boink, and he gets to it, and the ball just stays down. It just has a different English on it.
So runner at first base, Cervelli's up. You figure Cervelli's up there to try to sacrifice and get the runner into scoring position. And it's Polanco who's on deck. Don't forget he came on to play right field. And they took Corey Hart out of the game. There is Polanco. Cervelli squares. Franco creeps in at third. And now Garcia steps off. He bunts toward first. Cervelli is tagged out. Sacrifice is successful. 3 unassisted.
It's an excellent bunt there by Cervelli.
Excellent bunt. Wouldn't you want to see him run down the line and force a throw from the first baseman? I mean, whoever it is.
You'd think so.
And now, I mean, I know 9 times out of 10 that throw is going to be right on the money. It's an easy play.
And Luis Garcia is not the easiest person to bunt against, but I agree. Make the throw. You never know what could happen. The more exchanges you make with the baseball, the more opportunity there is for an error. I agree, Tom.
Well, sacrifice 3 unassisted. Polanco is up. Carlos Ruiz has already signaled that they're going to walk him intentionally, so it'll put 2 on with 1 out. Put the double play in order with Jordy Mercer due up next. Jordy Mercer's been called back to the dugout, and Neil Walker is going to come up. It looks like he's going to pinch hit. They have Walker, they have Alvarez, Tabata available to pinch hit if need be. They also have Chris Stewart, who played a role in the extra inning win the other day by the Pirates. And there's ball 4 for Gregory Polanco. So runners on first and second. Now you've got the better side for Walker as far as his power goes. And Bob McClure is going to stroll out to the mound and talk to Garcia. Give him a little insight on Neil Walker. Cole Hamels started today, went 7 innings, allowed 4 hits, struck out 12. Ken Giles pitched a scoreless 8th inning. He struck out 2. 14 strikeouts today for Phillies pitching.
We see Pedro Alvarez out on deck, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Elvis Araujo get up.
Yeah, right now the bullpen is quiet.
Well, it's hot today, Tom. It's not going to take a whole lot to get loosened up.
Yeah, Papelbon was talking about that a few weeks ago, how as the weather warms up, be a little easier to get loosened up. It's only going to take a few pitches. Neil Walker 2 for 20 as a pinch hitter. The potential winning run is at second base in Sean Rodriguez. He does run pretty well. They turn back towards second. Francoeur and Dominic Brown have the best arms at the corners for the Phils in the outfield. Francoeur has 3 outfield assists this year. Dominic Brown had 6 outfield assists down in Lehigh Valley. Walker takes in the dirt. Rodriguez thought about going to third, but then stopped halfway. Great job by Ruiz. Can't take a chance there. You're already in scoring position at second base.
Unless you really want to fire your manager up. Very nice job by Chooch. It's a good secondary by Rodriguez as well, but that's the smart move.
One ball, no strikes. Slider, and it's 1-1.
I still would like to see the outfielders in maybe just a little bit more, because there's no way Rodriguez is being held up at third base. Unless it's a tweener that you think maybe the outfielder can get to. You want to give yourself every opportunity to throw the runner out at home plate.
Rick Sofield, the third base coach. 1 ball, 1 strike to Neil Walker. Swing and a miss, and a slider, 1-2. Good pitch. Sofield is a pretty intense fella. Just watching him during batting practice.
Is it the staring contest?
I think so. He's leading with Rodriguez. He got him. Another slider. Boy, those are some great pitches by Luis Garcia. 15 strikeouts today in 8 2/3 for the Phils. And now Pedro Alvarez will be the batter.
Walker, you can see, visibly upset. Another nice job by Chooch, keeping that ball in front.
All right, so they decide to stay with the right-hander Garcia, and you just saw what he did against a lefty with that slider. They probably feel like it's the same thing. Pedro Alvarez is more of a free swinger. Boy, Revere's backed up even a couple more steps in center field. Runners lead off. Guy at second's the most important one. Really, he's the only important one.
Good luck hitting that one. I don't see that ball is down, Tom. I don't.
Corey Blazer's off of the mask, bark it at Clint Hurdle. Hurdle's going to get thrown out. There he goes. Ejected from this ball game. He knew he was going to get ejected once he came out. You can't argue balls and strikes. Second ejection of the season for Clint Hurdle. All right, take a look, and this is the view that Clint Hurdle has. All right, well, that's below the knees. That's a tad low.
Like I said, I don't think it's that low, Tom.
No balls, one strike to Alvarez.
For what it's worth, Clint Hurdle's walking a lot better than when we saw him in
I would agree with that. He's had both hips replaced.
Come on, Luis.
No balls, two strikes. Boy, he has got that slider going today. Might as well just keep on throwing it. What do you think of a show me fastball here and then another slider?
I go right back to the slider.
One ball and two strikes. The slider's been very good. It got Walker. Let's see if he can get Alvarez. The runners lead off first and second. And the pitch. He does go right back to it. It's swung on and missed, and the inning is over. 16 strikeouts today for Phillies pitching. No runs, one hit, and two men left. And for the second time in this series, we've got extra innings. We'll be back with the top of the 10th. Phillies Pirates series finale only on Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies Post Game Live. Look at the Roberto Clemente Bridge. As you enter that bridge, you also will see the Roberto Clemente statue. There are two statues on the street that leads to that bridge. There's one of Willie Stargell, and it is enormous. He looks like a monster. And then the other one of Roberto Clemente that is right at the foot of the bridge. Two beautiful statues here in Pittsburgh. Neil Walker stays in the game to play second base for the Pirates. Harrison moves to third. Gong moves to shortstop. Jordy Mercer's lifted because of the pinch hitter. And Jared Hughes is the new pitcher. And we begin the top of the 10th inning with Maikel Franco waving at the first pitch from Jared Hughes. Phillies nearly scored against Hughes in the extra inning game the other night. Chopper foul into the camera well. Franco is an 11-game hitting streak that's on the line. Two balls, two strikes. It's not like the Reading Titans, but this is the first time the Phillies have had two extra inning games in a series. Pirates are 1-6 in extra inning games. Broken back ground ball softly to the third baseman. And Harrison throws out Maikel Franco. One out. Dominic Brown's coming up. Well, there it is. I mean, Ben, is it not enormous, the Willie Stargell statue?
It's huge. It is a big one.
Kind of cool. You walk by it at any time, and there's folks taking their picture next to it. Well, he was a good player. Can you imagine what he would have done in this ballpark with that short porch and right? Ground ball back to the box. Jared Hughes runs halfway between the mound and first, and there are two outs.
You think that statue is that much bigger than the Mike Schmidt one at CBP?
I do. I do think it's
that much bigger?
Taller. I think it's taller. I think the Roberto Clemente one is similar to Schmidt's.
Okay.
Galvis takes outside, 1 ball and no strikes. Well, now the fans are getting on the home plate umpire, Corey Blazer. '92 on that sinker, 1 ball and 1 strike. There is Papelbon warming up in the pen. Check swing, foul ball, 2-2. Ground ball to first base. Rodriguez stays down on it. Phillies go down in order here in the top half of the 10th inning. So Jared Hughes does his job. And let's see if the Phillies bullpen can do the same. We'll be back with the bottom of the 10th inning right after this. Of the 10th inning, second time in this series that these two teams have not been able to score a run in regulation in the first 9 innings and have gone into extra innings. On Friday night it went 13 before the Pirates won it. Phillies have made a couple of defensive changes. Odubel Herrera comes into play center field, and with that, there's Odubel. They will move Ben Revere over to left field, and moving from left field over to right field is Jeff Francoeur. So the outfield is all set, and Jonathan Papelbon will come into this ball game. 25th game for Pap, 1-0, a 1.13 ERA. Harrison has a base hit today in 4 at-bats, and he hits that one sharply to short. Ball hooked right to Freddie Galvis, 1 away. 1 pitch, 1 set aside.
Ball was smoked, but it did hook.
Phillies have finally kept Harrison quiet in this game. He does have 1 hit. He's now 6 for 15 in the series. And here's Marte. Marte is 2 for 4 today.
Get hotter in here?
I think it's been pretty hot all day. There's your fan working over there.
It's working, but it's just blowing hot air.
Out to left center field. That's pretty well hit. Revere on the run, and he can't get there. And Marte will get to second base with a 1-out double. I don't know if Ben didn't see it right off the bat, but he didn't get a great jump.
That ball was hit hard. There's just a lot of room out in that left center field corner. He did not get a good jump on that ball. You see in the first couple steps, he just wasn't really moving a whole lot.
I think that's it. I think he just don't think he was moving. All right, so Ryan Sandberg's coming out to talk to Papelbon. And they would think you have to walk McCutchen here. Sort of the same concept that we've seen a couple different times in this series.
They've kept him in check this series. You know, he does have a single today, but I guess the right thing to do is walk him and set up that double play.
Pap was saying the other night when he was talking about the situation with Ken Giles, he said, honestly, he goes, I would voice my opinion whether I thought it was the right move or not. He said, from a baseball standpoint, it was the right move to walk Pedro Alvarez. So the double play is in order. Dave Jouse is the manager right now for the Pirates, with Clint Hurdle being ejected from the game. Brad Fisher, who's a second dugout coach, is now next to him, and I guess he assumes the role of the bench coach. So ball 4 to McCutchen, runners on first and second. And Jung Ho Gong will be the batter for the Pirates. Gong has had a tough day. He struck out 3 times in this afternoon's ball game.
And Cole had him set up for that 4th one in his 3rd at bat, but walked him on the 3-2 changeup.
So the runners lead off first and second. It's the second straight inning that the Pirates have had first and second with 1 man down. And a line drive to left field. Revere comes running in, makes the catch. Yeah, there are 2 outs. And Sean Rodriguez is now the hitter. Rodriguez singled his last time up. It was an infield single over toward third. At the knees, 0-1.
Think he's any relation to Benny the Jet Rodriguez?
Does have some resemblance to him, doesn't he? Let's hope we don't have to see if he gets into a pickle here and scores a run. Outside, 1-1. About a strike away from getting out of this here in the bottom of the 10th inning. Wouldn't be surprised if Papelbon does get out of this inning that he pitches another one. And the 1-2 pitch out to right field. Jeff Francoeur is there, and Jonathan Papelbon will work around a couple base runners to take this game to the top of the 11th inning. No runs, 1 hit, and 2 men left. We'll go to the 11th. Carlos Ruiz will lead it off. This point without either team scoring a run, and part of the reason why today is because of the pitchers, the starting pitchers for both of these teams. AJ Burnett, Cole Hamels, are Chevrolet players of the game. Look at the two of them. They combined for 16 innings, 9 hits, and 16 strikeouts. 12 of those strikeouts coming from Cole Hamels here this afternoon.
Yeah, they were just phenomenal, both of them. AJ Burnett just a little more efficient with his pitch count, but Cole Hamels was just dominant, you see, with the 12 strikeouts.
And we've documented the fact that neither one of these guys get consistent run support, and that certainly was the case here today. So the Pirates will go back to their bullpen as we begin the top of the 11th inning. And they'll bring in former Phil, Antonio Bastardo. You can see the left-hander warming up on the mound as we speak. And he will face Carlos Ruiz, Odubel Herrera, and then Ben Revere. 21 games for Bastardo, 1-1, a 4.60 ERA. .24 base runners and 15 2/3 for Bastardo. Phillies with 5 hits today. The Pirates with 7 hits. And the first pitch goes all the way back to the backstop. Just a bit outside. 1 ball and no strikes. I think he did that just to scare everybody.
Who the heck knows? Lefties.
Carlos fouls it off to the right. And it's 1 ball, 1 strike. Carlos today is 1 for 3. Singled his last time. Little single out to right center field. Look out. Bat goes skipping into the stands. It's 1-2. Hit the top of the dugout and skipped right into the stands. And it does look like everybody's okay.
Thank God it didn't, but how does that not conk somebody in the dome?
Well, it hit somebody in the arm, but it spun right off that person. I was a little worried about this little young kid that was in the front row. I mean, he was right in the front row. And I think it may have gotten right past his arm. 1 ball, 2 strikes now to Carlos. With a new bat, he takes outside 2-2.
Incoming.
It's obviously been a big topic, a growing topic, after the woman was hit at Fenway Park with a piece of Brett Laurie's bat from the Toronto Blue Jays, or I should say from the Oakland A's. 3 balls, 2 strikes to Carlos. Carlos sends it out toward right center field. Polanco says he has it and makes the catch. 1 out here in the top of the 11th inning. And Odubel Herrera will be the batter.
McCutchen really not spending a whole lot of energy there to go back Polanco up on that play. He took a couple steps and just shut her down.
He's very confident in his teammate that he's going to make that catch.
I guess.
Odubel up for the first time in this game. He came on as part of a double switch to play center field. Looks like Pap is going to pitch the bottom of the 11th inning. Out toward left field, Marte froze for a moment, but makes the catch there. 2 outs. And now Ben Revere. Ben reached on a base hit his last time up and wound up getting thrown out trying to steal third. That was in the top of the 9th inning. He slid past the third base bag. It's happened several times this year to the Phils. On the inside corner, 0-1.
See, I would think that would be a tough habit to break, stealing first and second, because base stealers, they have their strides, know exactly how far they get off first base, and they have their strides down the exact number before they go into their slide. So that might be tougher to break than the one stealing second and third.
I always wonder about going in feet first in some of those.
I've never seen him slide feet first. I don't know if he can.
He has, yeah.
We even see him try to break up double plays head first.
Which obviously is not something that you want a base runner to do.
Not recommended, Tom.
2 balls and 1 strike. Little squibber back off the glove of Bastardo, picked up on the bare hand and not in time. Revere is safe at first. And that should go down as a base hit. Well, the last time that 2 games in 1 series were scoreless through 9 and went into extra innings was back in 1975. Phillies and the Giants, and this is when the Phillies are involved in. Phillies and the Giants. Phillies won game 1, Giants won game 2. One won 11, the other one won 10. Last time it happened in baseball was the Brewers and the White Sox back in 2012. Jeff Francoeur is up against the left-hander. Revere takes his lead off first. Now you can steal on Bastardo. Bastardo is very slow. Well, he's just very slow, but he's very slow to the plate. He's got that sort of show me move over to first base just to kind of keep the base runners honest. Francoeur takes wide, 1-0. With 2 hits and 4 official at bats here today. That one toward the right side. Walker gobbles it up, and the side is retired. So the Phillies do get a base runner on the infield hit by Ben Revere, but they leave one over at first. Jonathan Papelbon's going to get a second inning of relief work when we return. Of the game, and it's all about the pitching here today. Cole Hamels and A.J. Burnett.
Yes, it was, and Cole had all 4 going today. Fastball, cutter, curveball, and his changeup. The changeup was filthy. Kenny Giles' slider day was absolutely dirty. Luis Garcia with another great outing. His slider was dirty as well. Papelbon with a good bottom of the 10th inning. Hopefully he can keep it going himself.
Yeah, the Phillies pitchers today have 16 strikeouts. That is a season high. Papelbon does not have one yet. He pitched a scoreless 10th. Now he begins the 11th. Francisco Cervelli will lead it off. Cervelli's 1 for 3 with a sacrifice. Inside, 1-0. Bullpen action. Vance Worley to the right, and Rob Scahill is to the left. Ball, no strikes. In there, 1-1. 2 strikes. Boy, just a bit outside on that one. And a called strike 3. Got it with a breaking ball. 17 strikeouts now for the Phil's pitchers.
Is he serious? Is he serious?
I think he is. It looks like a pretty good pitch.
It's one you want to hit 400 miles.
Oh, that's a strike.
Is what you want to do with it. Go ask Paps what Cervelli should have done with that pitch.
Here's Polanco. They intentionally walked him his only time up. And he pops it foul behind the plate. 0-1. Fly ball left center field. It's not that deep. Herrera says he has it. And they're 2 away here in the 11th inning. And here comes Neil Walker. Walker struck out as a pinch hitter his first time up. Jose Tabata is out of the on-deck circle to pinch hit. Spot is due up next. That's Bastardo. We're going to see one of the right-handers out of the Pirates bullpen next, either Scahill or Worley. Line drive, base hit into center field. That knocked Pap right down onto the mound. So the Pirates get a 2-out base runner, and here's Jose Tabata coming up.
Watch your lips. He's close to catching that ball.
Yeah, he did. Probably frustrated that he didn't catch it. 21 pitches for Papelbon. Not a huge workload at this point. In his second inning of relief. There was a time where Tabata was thought to be part of the threesome in the outfield for the Pirates. Injuries have sidetracked him. He'll take at the knees. It's 0-1. Pirates as a team have 16 pinch hits this year. That's 12th most in Major League Baseball. Phillies, of course, lead the way with the most pinch hits in the majors. They do not have the most opportunities, but they have the most pinch hits. No balls, 2 strikes.
Really surprised Walker hasn't taken off yet.
Got a really short lead over at first, too.
I mean, Paps is just terribly slow to home plate.
Boy, did he slow that one up. And Tabata was way out front. And he fouls it at the plate. Tabata now 26 years old. Played 106 games back in 2013 for the Pirates. Hit .282. The last couple of years, his playing time has been diminished. 80 games last year. .282 again. But he did not hit a home run. So he went 186 plate appearances last year without a home run. And he's got 25. This will be 26 plate appearances this year without a homer. The 0-2 pitch. Chopper over to shortstop. Galvis surrounds it. Throws on the run. And he overthrows Howard. It goes into the camera well. The runners will move up to second and third. It'll be an error shortstop. And we'll see how costly it is. Boy, he had plenty of time to get Tabata. He just floated that throw.
You got to pitch to Harrison here because Marte is just killing the Phillies.
Yeah, it is pick your poison. But Harrison has one hit today. So you look at the play again by Galvis. Not much else to say except that he overthrew him.
Yeah, I don't think he had to quite rush it that much. And Tyler can run a little bit, but the ball wasn't hit terribly hard. But it's a play that Freddie needs to make.
9 errors on the year now for Freddie Galvis. Let's see what the Phillies decide to do here. They are going to pitch to Harrison with a winning run over third base with 2 men down. Harrison has a base hit. He's 1 for 5. 1 for 5 and 6 for 15 in the series. And a line drive off the mound into center field. The Pirates will win it again in extra innings by a final score of 1-0 as Josh Harrison comes through swinging at the first pitch here in the 11th. And that brings home the winning run. The error by Freddie Galvis set it up.
Man alive, all with 2 outs, Tom.
All with 2 outs. The Phillies have lost all 6 games on this road trip. They've now lost 10 straight road games. And they lose it today by a final score of 1-0. Well, you talked about it, Ben. You know, there was a decision to make. Do you pitch to Harrison? Do you pitch to Marte? Marte's been smoking hot, and Harrison's been pretty hot as well. And he just rifled it right back up the middle.
In my opinion, you got to pitch to Harrison. Marte with 3 more hits today against the Phillies. You know, he's getting to that point where he's up there with Brian McCann's of the world, and the Dan Ugglas and the Philly Killers. So, in my opinion, yeah, you go after Harrison.
Well, Harrison went after it aggressively, as you normally do in an RBI situation. The Pirates have swept out the Phils, 2 1-0 extra inning victories, including today. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this.